can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Bo Royal of Pareto Legal. Bo, before I formally introduce you, I always like to point out other episodes people should check out of the podcast. And, you know, I had, since this is part of the Top Agency series, I had Corey Quinn on. Corey Quinn really talks about niching down. And he helped grow a large, I don't know, you've probably heard of them, Scorpion. In a big way, but he really talks about niching down. So we're going to talk about niching down on this. He gave some interesting things that he did to help grow the company, and anyone grow a company agency. Also, another good one was Kevin Hurrigan. He has had an agency since 1995, so he really talks about the landscape of the internet, business, and agency life throughout a couple decades. So super interesting episode. Another one, Jason Swank, who we both know mutually. Bo, he talks about how he grew his agencies to 8 figures and then sold it, and then how he had a separate company that was buying up agencies. So that was interesting to hear as well. That many more on InspiredInsider.com. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. And how do we do that? We do that by helping you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the accountability, the strategy, and the full execution. But we're kind of like the magic elves that run in the background to make it look easy for the company so they can create amazing content and amazing relationships. Most importantly, focus on running their business. You know, for me, the number one thing in my life is relationships, and I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, you can go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. I am excited to introduce Bo Royal. He's a former Fortune 500 advertising agency executive turned law firm marketing expert. And after holding leadership positions at eBay's marketing solutions division, and he really helped scale online advertising revenues for a variety of well-known brands, Calvin Klein, many others. I think I read somewhere people were spending like $30 or plus million a month on their ad spend. Okay, a month. Bo actually pivoted into the world of legal marketing many years ago and just didn't look back. And he co-owns and operates Pareto Legal. You can find him at legal.paretoppc.com. I love that name because I'm all about 80-20. And they're a growth marketing agency positioned to help small and medium-sized law firms add an extra 7 figures in cases to their pipeline. They do that via digital advertising, conversion optimization, analytics, and much more. So Bo, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on, Jeremy.
We'll just have to talk about how you run a campaign that they're spending like $30 million a month. But just start off, talk about Pareto Legal and what you do. And if you're listening to the audio, there's a video version. I'm going to share their website and we'll poke around there.
Yeah, I think you kind of introed it perfectly. We are an agency that focuses on scaling injury law firms with digital advertising, conversion rate optimization, and analytics. So in terms of digital advertising, our sweet spot there is Google, Meta, and Microsoft ads. Conversion rate optimization is just a fancy way of saying that we help our clients with their landing pages and their user experiences to promote more and more conversion. And then we tie it all together with reporting, attribution, pull all the numbers together and make it actionable for them in a dashboard and really guide them through the decision making after the data is collected, right? So those are the real three sweet spots that we focus on with our clients.
You know, when we were talking before we hit record, you were saying you just wish you would have known about niching back when you first started.
Yep.
So we'll go back. We'll maybe go in reverse order. So
sure.
Talk about what you meant by that
Yeah, I
focusing on the
think,
niche
you
and why it
know,
would have saved you headaches.
I think, like I said before, if we could go back in time, we would have picked a niche earlier on. And the reason for that is we could have developed more specialization. We could have developed more thought leadership and process specifically for a vertical. In our early years, we were candidly revenue hungry. We would work with anyone. If they wanted to advertise online, if they wanted help with a landing page, if they needed help with their tracking, we would say yes without really kind of understanding what we were saying yes to. And as we grew, we realized that that wasn't a viable strategy long term, right? The only way that we were going to continue to scale profitably was if we really focused on a specific business type and were very intentional about the things that we were doing to help that type of business, right? So we originally actually thought that was going to be e-commerce. And because of my background at eBay's marketing solutions division, I had developed a lot of chops. My co-founder had developed a lot of chops in like the e-commerce advertising and analytics realm. And we got to ride that wave up during COVID. Um, you know, once like March, April 2020 hit, it was like a gold rush to start advertising your products online because no one was going to stores, right? Everyone was on lockdown. So we got to benefit from that rise in e-commerce sales. But then, that only lasted about 18, 24 months. And a lot of our e-commerce clients, their budgets got cut. We unfortunately lost those clients. And the other kind of realization was e-commerce right now and going forward is kind of a red ocean. It's just so saturated with agencies that are all doing the same thing. And it forced us to kind of take a hard look in the mirror and be like, what industry can we truly excel at serving for the long term? And I should give some context that, during this whole time that we're building our agency, my co-founder and I are CMO and COO at a large injury law firm in Philadelphia. So this was kind of our side hustle 4 or 5 years ago, right? That we're building this agency up. And meanwhile, we're developing skills and chops in the legal marketing field. And it wasn't until, honestly, early last year that we kind of had the realization, wait a minute, we know a ton about legal marketing. Some of our best success stories are with, law firms. This is it. We're sitting on the golden ticket right now. It's time for us to double down on this and focus on these types of clients. And that's where Pareto Legal was born. That's why we made the decision to build a separate entity in Pareto Legal. The original agency was called Pareto PPC. That's still in operation. We still have clients, outside of the legal niche, but all of our, go-to-market focus these days is on lawyers, specifically injury lawyers.
So did you go from eBay into working with law firms then?
Yes. So I guess I would have been 28 years old when I made the decision to leave the big agency world. I candidly was burned out. I, had been working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks for years and was just like, there's got to be more to life than this. And candidly, when I made that decision, the CFO at the agency called me into his office and he said, "Hey, I think you're making a mistake. This isn't a conventional career path you're taking. You're leaving the Fortune 500 world and you're going to a law firm, a medium-sized law firm in Philadelphia. What's your thinking here?" And to be totally honest with you, at the time I just wanted to get out of the churn and burn agency world that I was in. I didn't really give much thought to it. But honestly, the one of the best decisions I made was to go to that law firm because not only did I get to make more of an immediate impact on that business, I got to learn a lot of other things outside of my domain of expertise, which at the time I was pretty much exclusively like the Google Ads expert. That's what people knew me as. I ran, like you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, my biggest client was spending $30 million a month just on Google advertising. Like insane budget, right? But I was kind of unfulfilled with that specialization, and I wanted to broaden my, my horizons and learn more about these other channels and, the marketing funnel as a whole. And so this law firm granted me that opportunity. I was actually their first marketing hire. I joined that firm as their CMO in, I guess it was like 2017, 2018. And that firm just, after a matter of like 12, 18 months of me helping them revamp their website, define their positioning, optimize their advertising campaigns, help them with their intake and call center, the firm just grew significantly. I think when I joined, they were in mid 7 figures. They're now in mid 8 figures. So that was a great experience. It gave me the confidence to now be doing what I'm doing in the legal niche.
How did you navigate your time and balance things when you were working and growing this large law firm, and then actually, you were having to bring on clients too?
Yes. So the first 6 to 12 months, I'll be honest, I did not manage my time well. I ended up leaving eBay to escape 70 to 80 hour work weeks. And within a matter of 6 to 12 months, they were back into my life. So I made the decision in 2019 to bring on a business partner. That's Jake Barufkin. He's my COO and co-founder. And that really helped me save some time, right? To have another me, if you will. And then we quickly brought on contractors to help with a lot of the minutia of account management, managing campaigns, creating ads, so on and so forth. So that pain of having the 70, 80 hour work weeks again quickly got me working in high gear to bring on more help, delegate. And I was able to juggle, both of those businesses because of the fact that I brought more people on to help. I will be honest though, the agency was a minority of my time, pretty much up until March to April 2020, when COVID hit, because then I was able to work 100% remote. I was, it just gave me the freedom and flexibility to do as much work as I wanted to on the agency. So that really benefited me.
And then, I find a lot of times, Bo, that someone starts their company from out of a client, actually sometimes employment relationship. Did that company then stick with you? I mean, you can still continue to work with that company as, you grow your agency.
The law firm, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still affiliated with the law firm. I'm an advisory board member there now. But yeah, I mean, the way that I got into the agency business is two of my former clients at eBay, when I left, reached out to me. Two separate clients reached out to me about a month after I had put in my notice, and they said, "Would you like to freelance for us?" And I didn't even think of, owning a business or running an agency as a career path for me up till that point. And when they reached out, that's kind of when the entrepreneurial, juices started flowing and things started kicking in. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe I am good enough at this to do it, as a business. And within that, 6 months after leaving, I ended up going from 2 clients to like 8 clients or something like that, because I just ended up tapping my network, telling people I'm doing this, freelance now. If you want to pay me directly, it's going to be cheaper than an agency, so on and so forth. And that's how I ended up going right back to 70 to 80 hour weeks. But yeah, it happened by accident. I'm one of many of the accidental agency owners out there. And if I were to tell you that this was all part of my grand plan, I'd be lying. It just kind of happened by chance.
So when you went from, you're working with big clients at eBay to basically, starting to freelance and start your own agency, how did you think about and decide on pricing?
That's a really good question. I honestly, it's still something I think about, and we make adjustments to. At the time, I was simply selling my time. It was all hourly based. I was charging maybe like 50, 70, $100. I think I increased it incrementally as I got more and more clients, right? But yeah, I had to sell my time to start, right?
So you
I
would
didn't have
say to set this campaign up, I'm just going to charge you hourly. Here's my hourly rate. And to run the campaign, you would just charge them
yes.
hourly.
Yeah, I would tell them like this is going to be the bucket of hours I need to do this work. And if it's a little less, I'm not going to charge you that. If it's a little more, I'm going to need to charge you that. But just to give you a ballpark, and that's how I would get my foot in the door. And it worked well for the first, like I said, like 8 clients. But the problem is there's only so many hours in the day, and people also were paying for me to do the work, right? And so I really had to start separating the actual execution from myself, right? Like you're not paying for me per se, you're paying for the thought leadership, the systems, the best practices that our agency abides by. And that doesn't mean I'm going into your account and like creating ads for you or anything like that. My team does that, right?
Yeah.
So that took honestly about 2 years to pull myself out of that.
Talk about hiring, right? So obviously you start off, you're like, oh God, I just took a lot of clients on and now I'm doing all this work. The 80-hour weeks I thought I wasn't going to have, you may have more hours sometimes. What were some of the key hires you made?
Um, I would say the best initial hires that we made were the actual doers of the work, right? So like the setting up the campaigns, making the optimizations, doing all of the minutia of account management, and then that freed us up to spend more time on like strategy, client facing type of activities. And then we quickly started hiring people to actually run the calls and interact with the clients for us. And I should note the first 2.5 years, all of our help was contractors. We did not hire full time until I think we were founded in February 2019. We didn't make our first hire until September 2021. So we were able to grow the business with part-time help. And most of it was found on Upwork, Fiverr. We had like this whole like screening process where we make candidates go through a Google form questionnaire. And then if they did a good job on the questionnaire, we'd make them go through a project, which we'd pay them for. And it was just our way of kind of sifting through the hundreds of applications that we would get. And, was proved to be a good way to bring on what I would call flexible help. It was, if we were to lose a client, we wouldn't have to, fire anyone. We would just say, hey, we lost this client. We got to drop your hours next month. But, oh, hey, here's another client now. Your hours are coming back up, right? So it really, it gave us the flexibility we needed to maintain profit during that initial 2.5 year period that we were founded.
We were talking about, and you mentioned you have some scar tissue from hiring.
Mm-hmm.
What did you mean by that?
I think we did not when it came to hiring. I think we were very quick to make decisions on people. And I think there probably could have been more time spent during the interview process to understand, what their strengths, weaknesses were. We could have done a better job to clarify what the role was and what the expectations were. and I want to be clear, like whenever a hire that we make doesn't work out, we recognize that to be our fault, right? As the business owners. And so I think, we made a lot of hires over the years, some of which just didn't work out. And every time we've done that, it's really forced us to look in the mirror and say, what did we miss? How do we avoid this next time? Right. And so a lot has been done, in terms of the interview process. There's a lot more questions. There's a lot more upfront things that we're sharing about what the role needs to be and what our expectations are. The project that we have is, I think, pretty challenging. I don't think most people in the field could do it, which is why, we if you can do it, it's a pretty good indication that you can work with us, that you are going to work up to our standard. But yeah, that's honestly been one of the hardest parts of the job is finding great talent, and then unfortunately, if it doesn't work out, having to part company with people. It's never fun having to fire someone.
So you found the biggest thing was really being clear, having clarity of the role, and then also having very clear expectations of what you want from them.
Yes, the other thing I'll say is we've kind of realized that our sweet spot candidate is someone that has been at a big agency and has become kind of disillusioned with the way it's being run. They really know their stuff, but they're trying to join a company where they can make an impact, where things are fair and they're compensated for their contributions. So something I'm really proud of is we have a revenue share compensation model at our agency where all of the account team gets to share in the growth of the client account. So if the client account grows, that trickles down to the agency, and then that trickles down to the team that's managing the account. And I'm very clear about that when I'm on sales calls with prospective clients, where I say, like, look, there's not a lot of agencies out there where your team is going to be incentivized to grow your account. Like your success is their success. And so I think that incentive structure keeps everyone kind of aligned on what the goals are, keeps my team hungry, and it keeps it fair, right? Like when I was in the big agency world, I get pulled into all these pitches, all of these projects, all these things that were distracting me from what the root of my job was, which was to serve my clients, grow their businesses, so on and so forth. And I'm very aware of how quickly a team can get distracted when, sales wants to have someone weigh in on something, or, oh, we want to build this content piece or that or that. Like, it's not to say that you shouldn't, ask your team to occasionally do things outside their job description if they want to learn something new, like recording a video or doing a pitch or something. But at the end of the day, the account team is there to serve the client, right? And so I think that is something else that we have added over the years that has made the agency. It's made it stickier with our clients and our employees. So I'm very proud of that model that we put in place.
Yeah, it's really interesting because there's definitely a pull between operations and sales, right? Like sales selling, and like, oh, they're great. And then it creates all this work for the team. So it makes sense they're incentivized to be excited about it as opposed to dreading it.
Right.
How do you decide, and you have to share specific numbers, I'm sure they ebb and flow, but how do you decide on the incentive structure and balance between, okay, we need to, when we're growing, you need money to hire people, you need money for, overhead and everything as you grow clients, but in the same sense, you want to reward the staff.
Yeah, I'd say first off, we keep 2 months of operating expenses in the bank at all times. That's our, emergency fund, right? That's something we've learned the importance of over the last 5 years is having cash on hand for whatever happens, right? Jake, my co-founder, would probably be able to answer this better than me, but we run a P&L forecast based on current clients, current operating costs, and we're basically able to determine, or we did determine, a figure that gave the team enough skin in the game and still left enough on the table for us so that we could, post a profit every month, quarter, year, right? So I'll be transparent about it. Our directors make a 2% rev share on the account revenue. And then the junior account analysts that are working on each client, they make 1% revenue share. So that's basically, it's a very simple model. If you're a director level, you make 2%. If you're a manager level or analyst or below, you make 1% rev share.
How do you end up distributing that? Like, what's the frequency of distribution?
Quarterly. Yep. So we don't do big year-end bonuses anymore. We're just paying out quarterly once once we've received all the invoices paid.
No, it's really interesting. I appreciate you sharing. I'm sure people will be interested in that. And how do they incentivize their staff? Not just, from a culture perspective, but from a monetary perspective. I love how you said, people have an ideal client profile, right? And they're thinking about, but you kind of have an ideal staff profile, which helps you to attract probably and market to those staff. If they've been in a big agency and you kind of know who's a fit for your team, culture, skill set. So that's really interesting as well. What did you learn, Bo, at working at a big agency that you bring to Pareto Legal?
I think the importance of perception and the importance of presentation. I think those things in more enterprise and Fortune 500 businesses matter so much. And I'm kind of talking about how you build a strategy and present that to a room of people. I got a ton of that experience at a very early age. I think I was in my first boardroom meeting when I was 23 or something. And just seeing how executives would speak with each other and how decisions were made and what the things they really cared about and the stuff they didn't care about, that rubbed off on me. And, I when my team sends me a strategy or sends me a deck for review, or if we're doing a pitch, I'm still kind of thinking about that boardroom I was in when I was 23 years old. And I'm thinking about that CEO in the room. And it's kind of so what? Why are we presenting this? What are we trying to get across? Right. That type of laser focus on what is the end goal is pretty much prevalent in all the work we do now. And the other thing I will say is over servicing clients when done in a controlled way can be a very, very positive thing. That's not to say you should be going out and, giving all these freebies away or something like that, but sometimes just doing a little bit beyond what's expected of you, it can really keep your clients happy, engaged. It can help with your churn. You really want to position yourself as a partner, not a vendor, right? And I think if you're always saying oh, hey, this is out of scope, I'm going to need to send you an invoice for this, or oh yeah, I'm going to need to charge you for this time, blah, blah, blah. That's a recipe for a higher than desirable churn, in my opinion, right? So I think just sometimes just getting the work done, going a little bit above and beyond can go a long way. Again, though, that needs to be done in a measured and controlled fashion. I think I was so successful earlier on in my career because I was willing to go the extra mile for my clients, whereas everyone else was, leaving at 5 o'clock. They were just doing what was expected. I was staying until 8 o'clock. I was responding to emails on the weekends. I was doing, going above and beyond. And, I'm not as much of a hustle and grind type of person these days. I'll be honest about that. I think I got that out of my system at the right time and age. But, it's in the world today, if you want to be noticed, you have to be willing to go the extra mile relative to others. So, take that for what it's worth.
Talk about the sales process for a little bit. We'll get into, I want to talk through what you do. And I know one of the companies work with Snyder Law, but I'm sure your sales process has developed over the years. And when you go to the website now, obviously all of you walk through a little bit. How do people start to work with you and take me through that?
Sales has been an area that we've made so much improvement in the last 12 months. I will be totally honest and telling you at the beginning of last year, we didn't really have a great sales process. The biggest change is we will only start working with a client if they agree to do a project. And the project can be one of two things. It can be an assessment of their existing advertising channels, or it's us coming in and building a strategy that they can implement. So that's really our qualifying criteria, if you will. A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I'd get on a call with a prospect and be like, what's your budget? When do you want to start? And the questions were so ridiculously surface level. I'm kind of embarrassed by it, thinking back to it. But yeah, I didn't do a good enough job of discovery, a year and a half ago. And now it's kind of like we're interviewing to hire someone almost, right? Like we're looking at every potential client with such a higher level of scrutiny. And really what we're trying to get to the root of is, can we help this business? And if we can't, then we have no business working with them, right? So that's where the assessment came in to start. And then the strategy that we do, that's more for clients that aren't running advertising currently, right? So we have a project for each different type of business. And the other thing I'll note is both of those projects are paid. And we have lost, out on potential deals because the prospect said, well, I'm getting this for free from this agency, or I'm getting this for free from someone else. We go, that's totally fine. Get that free assessment, get that free strategy. And if you're impressed by it, work with that partner. But for us, it's not worth extending ourselves.
It takes time. It takes time, energy, effort. If you're really truly digging into someone's company and giving them insights to do those things.
Exactly. I also I'd recommend the book How to Win Without Pitching Manifesto. I think I listened to that like on a 3-hour drive down to Fort Lauderdale a couple of years ago. And that's when it kind of became clear to me that I need to stop going and like joining these sales calls and try to sell myself in 30 minutes. That's not the purpose of the call. The purpose of the call is to understand, is this a right fit? And ask those qualifying questions, and don't give away free strategy or recommendations. Like if I'm leading the conversation with that, in the prospect's mind, I've already kind of lost. Like there's no value to what I'm doing if I'm just giving this stuff away for free. So that's been a big area of improvement for me personally over the last 12 months, because I'm still the one doing most of the sales.
Is that Bo, is it the one with Blair Enns? Is that the person? The Win Without Pitching Manifesto? Is that the right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a red book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Great
I'll have
book.
to check it out.
But yeah, to answer your question, I know you had brought up Snyder on the screen. That was one of the first ones that we did an assessment for. And man, that was such a good success story for so many reasons, because when we did our assessment, we identified that 40% of their advertising budget was being spent outside of their target market of Baltimore. So to be able to early on in the relationship look under the hood and point out 40% of your budget's being misspent, like that created such a urgency in them. They're like, oh my gosh, we need to fix this. And it just enabled us to build a proposal that immediately addressed that problem. And it really helped us sell the value of the service at that point. Because not only are we going to save you 40% of your budget per month, we're going to reallocate that. And then we're going to help you generate more leads, more cases with that wasted budget, right? Or what's currently your wasted budget. So that was one of the first clients that, again, we did the assessment for, and we basically realized this is our process going forward. We are not going to work with a client or a prospective client until they either let us look under the hood of what they're currently doing, or they pay us to build a strategy so that we can present to them the direction we want to move with things. Because there had just been too many former clients where we didn't know what we were signing ourselves up for, or we didn't, on the sales calls, they were kind of on the same page with what we wanted to do. But then once they put pen to paper and we really started working, they were like, whoa, wait, we don't want to do this. We don't have a budget this big, right? So both of those foot in the door offers, if you will, forced us to qualify not only the client, but qualify the direction that we wanted to go with that client, right?
It's interesting, Bo. Admittedly, I know that some of this stuff for ourselves, and sometimes I will skip over that process. Most of the time it bites me, but it bites us. Occasionally it doesn't, but you get I don't know if you've gotten this, but it's like, yeah, we just want, we're really interested in working. We just want a proposal. Right. And when we've skipped over that we'll do the strategy as we go along, because obviously the strategy is key. It's bitten us more than it hasn't. So I totally get it. So you mentioned Snyder Law. Any other points of some of the things how you thought about that and what you did with Snyder?
Can you be more specific? Sorry.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you didn't mention before that was interesting about the Snyder Law Group when you worked with them?
Yeah. And there's still a client. I'd say the assessment and identifying how their budget was being misspent was one thing. The other area was, we started asking more questions about their overall marketing budget. And this firm had historically spent the lion's share of their budget on traditional advertising. And so we were really their first digital advertising partner.
So more like billboard,
radio, TV, really those big three. And once they start, within a matter of like 2 months of advertising on Google, I think their budget went from like 80% traditional to 80% traditional, 20% digital to like almost flipped. It was like we flipped it from like 70-30 or something like that. 70 digital, 30% traditional. And that's still kind of how their budget is structured to this day. And that's honestly a common problem we'll see with law firms is they're not prioritizing their budget on the right tactics. They're buying the billboard because ABC law firm has a billboard, so I need to do that too. Or they're running a TV ad because DEF law firm is doing that, right? It's kind of this like shiny object syndrome. And the reality
it's like a FOMO almost. Like, well, they're I just drove down the highway. I see my competitor has like 7 billboards. We don't know if it's working or not. I mean, it could be.
I'm one of my agency friends. He has a law firm client that apparently buys billboards on his path to the office just to see himself as he drives to the office, right? So talk about an ego trip. But yeah, I mean that's honestly part of the reason why I think firms get the shiny object syndrome. But in reality, they need to start with very, very targeted digital campaigns, and they need to have very specific positioning, very clear landing pages that are fast loading, that have clear calls to action, that enable click to call functionality, like all these technical requirements that they end up missing because they end up getting distracted by the shiny object, right? So that's something that we're commonly helping firms with. And in the example of Snyder Law, that was something that they needed help with.
But I have one last question before I ask it. Just I want to thank you for sharing your lessons, stories, expertise. It's been really valuable. And people can check out Pareto Legal at legal.paretoppc.com. It's PARETOPPC.com. I'd love to hear some of your favorite resources. It could be books. It could be, actual mentors of yours. You mentioned the Win Without Pitching Manifesto. Are there any other, resources that you've utilized? And it could be even, tech tools too, as well throughout your career and now.
In terms of podcasts, I'm a big fan of Build a Better Agency podcasts. I listen to that frequently on walks around my neighborhood. Books, I already mentioned How to Win Without Pitching Manifesto. I also read the book Clockwork. I forget the name of the author. It's the same guy that did Profit
Mike
First.
Michalowicz. Yeah.
Yep. I read that back in 2020, right before we started hiring contractors to help us. And that really clarified that, until you bring on people to do the work for you, if you're a business owner, you've just basically created a job for yourself, right? So the point of owning a business is to truly own it and bring people in and to kind of run the show, right? And that was a great book. And then the other one I'll give a shout out to, 80/20 Sales and Marketing. That's
Perry Marshall. Yep.
Yep. That's how I got the name Pareto into our name. I'm a huge proponent of the 80/20 principle. I talk about it all the time with prospects, with clients, with my team. So that is definitely a framework of thinking that we deploy with all of our work, right? So those are 3 great books. And then I love YouTube. I spend so much time on YouTube, from like trying to learn a specific technical thing to just like following thought leaders in the space. I'll follow my competitors just to kind of hear about what they're doing. I got a YouTube premium account, so I can just like kind of save it if I'm on a plane and listen to it en route to somewhere. But I can't even tell you a specific one because like a YouTube person that I'm following, because I'm just following so many right now.
Any software and tools that you like? And by the way, I echo that. Mike Michalowicz has some great books. I did an episode on the podcast with him. People can check it out. It was more on his book, Fix This Next. He has a bunch of ones. And also I did 2 interviews with Perry Marshall, one of them on his 80/20 Sales and Marketing. So I totally agree with you, Bo. Fantastic book. He's actually here in Chicago, so I know him a little more deeply than the others. So, but great stuff. Software, tech tools that you use for the company or yourself?
For myself, Freedom, the Freedom app. I am like very diligent about cutting out distractions these days. And for me, being able to create a fixed schedule where I am not reachable via Slack, email. I'm not able to go to distracting websites. I'm not even allowed to like go look at my email, right? So I'm very basically during the mornings typically I don't make myself available to anyone. That's when I'm doing my deep work, right? So Freedom has been a lifesaver for me. Trying to think of any other tools I use. Loom. I love Loom. Just if I'm doing a task that I want to ultimately delegate, I'll just record myself doing it, send the video, and then it's kind of, off my plate forever. And then for kind of like the operations and the project management, we historically have used Asana, but we made the decision last quarter to move on to ClickUp, which basically is Asana plus Notion plus like time tracking all in one. I haven't used it yet. We're getting it set up right now, but from what I hear, it's awesome. So
we did the same switch actually a number of years ago too. From Asana, we were heavy Asana users, and then moved to ClickUp. So,
and you're still on ClickUp?
Oh yeah, we love it. Yeah, yeah. So
hear.
if you need some tips, happy to share what we've learned.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love it. CRM wise, do you use a CRM?
HubSpot.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing everything. Everyone check out their website at legal.paretoppc.com, more episodes of the podcast, and we'll see everyone next time. Bo, thanks so much.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.